Alright, so the setup that you're looking at here is a stripped out, clean install of Windows that I've done on my test bench, which is what I'll be using for a future upcoming benchmark video. Let me know if you guys have ever seen a Windows install this lean before. But I wanted to make this video because lately there's just been so much negativity surrounding Microsoft and Windows 11, and rightfully so. Over the past few years, especially this past year, the experience users have had to endure with Windows 11 has become so distasteful, bloated, and nerve-wracking that many are just looking for other alternatives. And I mean, heck, Nvidia just recently came out and said that a recent Windows update was the cause of their drivers not functioning and GPUs artifacting. Like, what the hell is going on there?
Do you ever feel like Windows just keeps getting worse? It's almost like every week they add more bloat, adds half-baked updates on features that already work just fine, and slide in AI crap where it shouldn't be.
Pop-up coming up. Go away!
Where's the X? Where's the X?
This sucks so much. This is such a terrible experience.
Any window that doesn't...
Ultimately, in my opinion, I think a lot of this is just extra Windows bloat. And they're taking Microsoft Windows in a direction that really it doesn't need to be there. Okay, ultimately, I just want Windows to be functional. I want it to be snappy. I want it to be fast. And I want it to have, you know, the feature. I just want it to have, like, good features.
Now, what if I told you that you can still attain a snappy, clean, and stable desktop experience without having to take drastic measures and jumping ship to a different operating system altogether? Let's get into it. Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing well. If you're someone who's been using Windows 11 or had recently switched to Windows 11 within these past few months because the official support for Windows 10 was discontinued, then you've probably experienced many pain points and resonate with a lot of these complaints you've probably seen online surrounding Windows 11. And Windows 11 has just become so bloated, unstable, and, you know, an ad-filled mess where half the time you feel like you're just fighting with your operating system to get it to work the way you want. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose of an operating system when it's not doing what you want it to do. And, you know, the frustrating part about all this is that it's not people just randomly waking up and deciding to hate Windows. A lot of this anger has been supercharged the moment Windows 10 officially hit end of support in October 14th, 2025. Because now all of a sudden you've got millions of perfectly fine PCs still in use, but the message from Microsoft is basically upgrade to Windows 11, upgrade your hardware, or you're on your own. So, you know, naturally people jump to Windows 11, and then right from the install experience, what they find is not really an improved operating system. It's an operating system that increasingly feels like it's just trying to monetize your patience, if I'm to be honest here. The start menus, the, you know, recommended areas have had waves of promoted content and suggestions that many users are just straight up interpreting as ads. And it's that slow creep that really drives you insane because it's your operating system. It's not some free mobile game that you downloaded. Then there's the whole sort of control angle. Even the setup has been nudged harder towards Microsoft account setups, you know, the always online funnel, to the point where Microsoft has, you know, actively removed or even tightened common bypass methods in newer builds. So, you know, bypass NRO or whatever it was, that's apparently not going to work anymore, which, you know, tells you the direction that they want to go in. And privacy-wise, it's hard not to feel like, you know, this relationship is starting to change. Features like Recall lit a whole firestorm because the idea of your PC passively logging your activities sounds like a weird dystopian feature. But Microsoft has since made the Recall feature an opt-in feature and says that it can be removed. But the bigger point is this trend, you know, more quote-unquote assistant features, more OS level data surfaces, and, you know, way more users asking, wait, why are these features even here? Like, what purpose does this serve me? How do I benefit from this? Furthermore, common options and features like personalization, simple things like audio configuration, and Windows File Explorer's menu being hidden behind multiple toggles or clicks. What used to be, you know, accessible in a couple of clicks now takes sometimes way more than that. And then there are multiple reports like every month where a feature update breaks security, it corrupts drives, makes PCs unbootable, and even destroys gaming performance. Now that's crossing the line for me. And it's just unacceptable coming from a billion-dollar tech corporation. Now, if you do zoom out, it all starts to make sense when you look at where leadership has been steering the ship. Satya Nadella, and man, this guy annoys me so much. I think business schools in the future should look at him as a prime example of colossal leadership failure. But he's been all in on this whole AI and Copilot era. Massive investments of Copilot are being shoved everywhere. Agents are the new apps is the type of messaging that he's really peddling here. And then Windows is going to become the biggest distribution channel on earth to push his vision. So, from the user side, it really doesn't feel like that Windows is being polished for you, the user, anymore. Instead, it's starting to feel like it's being optimized for other tech giants and corporations to take advantage of, for monetization, to extract as much money as possible from you. And when you hear stuff like how Microsoft has 30% of its code now written by AI, but not only that, where a huge portion of their labor force is being outsourced to overseas jobs or, temporary foreign workers versus homegrown talent, it explains why the whole operating system and this ecosystem has devolved into such garbage. And this is exactly why you've probably noticed this trend where a lot of tech channels on places like YouTube jump straight into the whole, install or switch to Linux suggestion. And look, I get it, Linux has certainly come a long way in terms of gaming performance and compatibility. And my intention here isn't certainly to undermine their videos or advice. I highly urge you guys, in fact, to definitely explore those avenues. But I also know that a lot of you are feeling like, you shouldn't have to abandon the environment that you grew up on or you were accustomed to just to get a clean, fast, and respectful desktop experience. And I'm certainly in that camp as well. I've always been of that mentality of why these companies resort to such drastic measures and changes and attempt to fix things that aren't actually broken, and I just don't have the time to relearn a whole OS right now. So what I wanted to do next was actually pivot towards a solution for you guys, and that is how you can set up Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC on your system that's going to be further tweaked and debloated. Now you might be thinking, whoa, hold on, Windows 10? Microsoft just said that they dropped support for Windows 10, so why are you telling me to install this operating system that no longer has support for it? Well, it's important to differentiate that when Microsoft says that they're not supporting Windows 10 anymore, they're actually referring to Windows 10 Home and Pro installs, or, what comes preloaded from a system integrator like OEM, like Dell or HP. Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC will continue to get support and security updates until January 13th, 2032. So, given the timing of this video, that's a bit under 6 years. I do also think it's appropriate I give you guys a brief explanation on what this version of Windows 10 is and how it differs from your typical Windows 10 operating system. So Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC is basically a special or fixed purpose edition of Windows from Microsoft that's meant for stuff like business machines, kiosks, point of sale systems, and medical devices, environments where you just don't want drastic changes on your operating system or, things that are constantly changing under your feet. A big advantage of this install versus a normal Windows 10 Home and Pro install is that Windows 10 IoT is built for long-term stability. So you're getting security and stability updates, but you're not going to be getting the non-stop feature update churn or all those consumer, extras that tend to creep in over time. And that's why it's still a thing in 2026 and will be supported for a much longer time, because in corporate and enterprise environments, things still take a longer time to transition over versus them going to just some end user and saying that, yeah, this is out of support, so here, upgrade to Windows 11 and call it a day from there. So, one of the trade-offs for Windows 10 IoT is that it is intended for special use devices, right? So, app and tool accessibility can be a little bit more limiting, but, there are certainly workarounds about that. And things like the Microsoft Store and the other apps like the Xbox app don't actually come pre-installed, which I think could be a pro for some of you guys. But again, if you do need it, there are workarounds in how you can get that stuff installed again. But I've also heard reports from other people claiming that, there is some inferior gaming performance with these installs because the scheduler doesn't work properly or isn't optimized for gaming. But hey, stay tuned because that's something that I will definitely be exploring in the near future. And another potential downside that you could run into, although more relevant to Windows 11 right now, is that these versions, they are limited to enterprise and business channels. So it's not like you can just go to your regular electronics retail store and be like, I want a copy of Windows 10 or 11 IoT. However, since technically Windows 10 IoT is legacy, you can find Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC's ISO over on the archive.org database, which we're going to be talking about more in just a moment. So when you take all of that into consideration, right out of the box, you have a copy of Windows 10 that is already pretty lean and stripped out. And for most people, they could install this and straight away they would see a significant difference in terms of bloat and stability over their regular retail Windows install. However, I like to take things one step further and really allow myself to attain that ultimate clean solution. And that is simply using a customized autounattend script. This is basically a script that Windows looks for during the install process, and how it enables you to attain that clean install. It will automatically apply all of your settings without you having to go through like 50 prompts. So instead of babysitting the install, you can pre-configure stuff like language, region, stuff like your local user accounts, disable privacy and telemetry stuff, and actually disable it rather than the basic option that Microsoft gives you. And skip other annoying first-time setup screens like bypassing online requirements, bypassing OneDrive setup, or just really annoying things like that really shouldn't be there in the install process. And all of a sudden, you have an operating system that will boot to your tailored preferences right out of the gate. And this is where the Schneegans.de website really comes in clutch. It's a super clean web-based generator that lets you build your own autounattend.xml file by just selecting options from a big menu of checkboxes and dropdowns instead of manually actually writing your own XML. You can rip out bloatware, disable a bunch of junk behavior, and really clean up the first boot annoyances, and even inject your own scripts, and so that way the install is coming out the other end feeling completely stripped out and tailored towards your preferences. It actually starts to feel like a Linux distro while still being Windows. You're going to want to take your time here, of course, and thoroughly go through all of the selections and options. And they do provide you with descriptions on what things do so you don't end up disabling something critical or something that you do actually use. And one important section I did want to highlight here is the section where it states the Windows editions. And here you'll want to just choose enter a product key interactively, because the other options assume that you're targeting a specific version of Windows, and if you've selected the wrong one, the installer will then give you an error saying that there's no OS image actually found. And the best part is it's simple. Once you've configured all of your settings, you'll generate the file and then it'll download for you. It's a really small file because it's just an XML script. And then you're going to drop it into the root of your Windows install USB and let it do its thing. So since you guys now have like an overview of the OS we're going to use and how we're going to further clean it up, let's go through a rundown of how this is all going to work. So once you've got your ISO file of Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC downloaded, you're going to want to use a program called Rufus, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, to mount the ISO file to a USB drive and turn it into a bootable install drive. Ideally, you'll want a 16 gig stick with nothing on there. So what you're going to want to do is open up Rufus, select your USB under the device list, and then under boot, select the disk or ISO image where you've downloaded your Windows 10 IoT. And then from here, for most modern PCs, you'll want to use GPT plus UEFI. Leave the defaults for everything else unless you need something specific. And then just hit start and let it build the install USB. Once it's done, you'll basically have a normal bootable Windows USB installer. Then remember, the autounattend script that we downloaded from earlier from the Schneegans website, all you're going to want to do is just drop the XML file into the root of your Windows USB install, and that's pretty much it. And then from here on out, the process is fairly simple. You're going to plug the USB into the back of your system's motherboard, and then you're going to hit power and then enter the boot menu of your system. Now, depending on which motherboard you have or who built your system, which OEM it's from, the hotkey will differ. On this MSI motherboard, it's F11, but I've seen boards have it set to F8, F10, so consult your system's manual if you're not sure. Then you're going to want to select the USB drive that you've created, and then just follow along the Windows setup prompts. It's pretty straightforward, and you'll notice that once it copies and installs the files from the drive, and then it restarts the system, depending on how you set up your autounattend script, you'll find it barely go through any of the initial setup prompts, or it's just going to completely bypass all of those screens because everything was already set up from the script. And then you'll see it drop you right away into your desktop, which is just so smooth. Like, I don't think I've ever experienced a Windows install this painless before. There's just no annoying prompts asking you to install Microsoft 365, enable OneDrive, enable Cortana, etc. So, as you guys can see, we have our custom install of Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC installed, and just look at how clean this install is compared to a stock or retail version of Windows that most of you guys are probably used to seeing. This is honestly making it feel like you're just using a Linux distro. Aside from Microsoft Edge, there is practically zero bloat. No unwanted apps or services that are pre-installed or running in the background. And when we take a look at Task Manager and we go to the processes, we can see that there's only a little over 100 processes running. And while that might sound like a lot at first, I have seen stock Windows 11 or even Windows 10 installs show up with 200 or even over 250 background processes running right from boot. So in terms of RAM usage, we're looking at around 1.7 gigabytes. And I mean, yeah, this is a totally fresh copy of Windows that was just installed. I haven't even installed a single driver or anything of my own on it. But this just gives you an idea of like that good baseline that we're gonna start from. And so now that you've got your clean Windows 10 install that'll be supported until 2032, you can proceed with downloading your programs, software, and drivers, and just have that peace of mind that everything you've installed and managed on this operating system is solely done by you. And given the fact that these days we've seen so many cases of things breaking on Windows 11, you won't have to worry about running into that either, which is just such a huge peace of mind factor there. So yeah, that's basically the whole point of this video. You don't need to rage quit Windows and go full install Linux or die, just because Microsoft keeps stuffing more junk into the default experience. If you want Windows to feel clean again, you want that fast boot, that stability, and no random stuff or apps installing themselves, then yeah, this Windows 10 IoT LTSC and custom autounattend script is the route hands down I recommend you guys to take. And the timing for this is certainly perfect because this is the exact setup that I'll be using for an upcoming video that I'm going to be working on, where I benchmark gaming performance of a Windows 11 IoT install versus Windows 10 to see which one is actually better or beneficial for gamers. So definitely stay tuned for that. But that's going to be wrapping it up for this video, and we'll touch base in the next video. Take care. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.